This is things I know to be true. God was a multitasker. He teach both love and hate to the bisexual heartbeat of the world. Matthew Shepard wasn't a scarecrow. Bob Dylan told me I was an underground man. I am not Elvis Presley or the Lizard King, singing you a pop song about death. Blue Hawaii in the afterlife of a moonlight drive. Hitler liked killing Jews with everything but kindness, and taking long walks on the beaches of Normandy. Like Don Quixote, I once fought a bottle of whiskey in the honor of women. Once referred to Jimmy Hoffa as Mr. Star-Studded Bones. Once built towering infernos of love out of the last matchstick in Napoleon's coat pocket, while dreaming about the Morton Salt Girl. Singing in the Purple Rain with Gene Kelly and the artist formerly known as Brendan Behan. Yelling to Gig Young. They shoot hippies, don't they? No shirt, no shoes, no bombs. No shirt, no shoes, no bones. The dead hold vigils on Bourbon Street. The last embers of Rome slipped through my fingers while writing you a love letter on the lid to Grant's tomb. It will be morning soon. My shadow waits for your song. By the invisible rivers of empathy, parked quietly along the highway at Wounded Knee. I had a close friend who was a city transit bus driver who killed himself after his daughter died of cancer. And I wrote this poem. This is the Ballad of Harry Lynn. I was barely 17 the summer I met Harry, working days as a file clerk at a women's Catholic college. A snot-nosed kid, a clown complete with pimples, pancake makeup, and a grease-paint forehead that popped with emotion like a volcano in a teenage wasteland. He had driven a city transit bus for nearly 30 years, raised a family, walked through the streets of Vietnam, clutching his grandfather's broken pocket watch against his chest. He claimed there were moments he witnessed time stopping altogether, and stood listening to the rain. We would talk every morning in the terminal before pulling out. He would tell me about fishing trips and family vacations to upstate New York, even inviting me along. Once he showed me a faded picture of his daughter. I didn't have the heart to tell him I didn't think she was attractive. So I just smiled and nodded. And the day he found out she had cancer 2 weeks after her wedding, I just hugged him. He sought tears almost close enough to mix with my own. Jackie fought a good fight, Harry said, a few years later after we walked away from the funeral. After years of working midnight spinner runs to casinos, to amusement parks, to museums, to pay for doctors, to pay for chemo, to pay for hope. Harry drove a city transit bus, helped old Jewish ladies with their shopping bags, and kept going for his family. A few years later, I read in the paper that he had jumped off a bridge in the middle of the night, into icy cold Pennsylvania river water. I hadn't thought about him in years, until my mother mentioned that my dad was considering getting a job driving a transit bus. Holding back tears, I thought to myself they would have liked each other. Harry, who taught me about true kindness at 6:30 in the morning. I should have repaid the favor. I should have told him she was beautiful. I guess it really doesn't matter now. Whatever road he is driving is sure to lead him home. This is a poem called The Vanilla Ice Age.
All right.
Last night, a friend died quietly. I used to imagine him as a bare-knuckle boxer under Boston street lamps. We used to smoke pot and take mushrooms at sundown in the fields of Ohio. Today, I wrap sonnets around my quivering body, blankets of love. A temporary Rocky Mountain werewolf picking daisies at the Ellis Island of invisible rivers, where my words have always had strong teeth. One day they will use carbon dating on Airwalk sneakers and unearth a sacred burial ground built for the king of pop. My eulogy was written in 1992 on the streets of Seattle. Its love reached millions, melting hearts at the end of the Vanilla Ice Age. What will they say when we're gone? That we recorded everything, but we were always better live.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I read this poem. I never met my mother's mother, my grandmother. She was hit by a car when my mom was 5. And I wrote this. It's thumbprint on the side of a time machine. My grandmother was hit by a car on the streets of Pittsburgh in 1961. My mother's mother, dead at 26. I wasn't there. I wasn't even a thumbprint on the side of a time machine, though her last breath may well have been my own. I heard that a group of girls played hopscotch inside the tire marks, and that you could see the Madonna on the wall of the local Polish deli. They said her last words were, "I'll be Billy the Kid, you be Death. Let's pray together." Today it is hard to close my eyes and count to heaven with a mouth full of rosaries, and even harder still to fly a paper airplane over the roof of a steel mill. But I have to do something. So let's sing a little song for the body electric. Words that cut deeply into the bones of sunlight, with death hovering overhead like a street sign, like a car dancing, without any brakes.
Yeah.
If any of you remember Adam Walsh, whose father John Walsh
Yes.
founded
Yes.
created America's Most
Yes,
Wanted.
yes.
I wrote this poem for him because he was a kid my age at the same time, really. This is the way things were in 1981. In 1981, I had a peach dragon sleeping bag that resembled the Alamo. Back then, I threw kisses at the wind as a form of prayer. Sometimes I wish I could go back there with a flashlight. 5 years old. I'd take a bus to Hollywood, Florida. Adam Walsh and I would go roller skating through the aisles of heaven. And I would ask him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Whatever he chose, I'd be proud of him. And I would remind him not to talk to strangers. I would say that I was from the future. And when I looked into his eyes, all I could see was a ghost clutching a rosary. Back then, I remember thinking that the local newscaster was the president. He always looked so serious. That was the year my mother took me to the movies for the first time. And my dad bought me a comic book at Niagara Falls on a family vacation. I didn't tell them that you were the reason that I feared going into department stores. And then I once saw an angel on the side of a Walmart ringing a Salvation Army bell that looked a lot like you. And then I was always afraid that they'd steal the stars out of the sky with a butterfly net, because I always wanted to name one after you. It always felt like we were brothers. Only you were an invisible celebrity and I was a nameless boy. I bet your mother still cries some nights, howling in the wind, where I left those boyhood kisses. I hope they comfort you now. In 1981, I believed that seeing was believing. But now the most powerful things in the world seem to be invisible. And now as I listen by my window, garbage trucks rumble like the shadows of invisible gods, their music offering blessings to both the quick and the dead.